A few quick announcements before we get started. Most importantly, the bus trip is this weekend to New York. So if you're planning to go to New York, make sure you bring your money to Student Life as soon as you can. We're getting to a point where we still have tickets for the Met, but they'll probably get sold out. So if you want the $5 ticket to the Met, which is I think $7 off of what you'd pay as a student, definitely come in soon. We'll run out of those tickets. The next career workshop will be Tuesday after Thanksgiving. In that one, we're going to talk about Fulbright fellowships, or Fulbrights and other fellowships. I think fellowships are kind of like the third leg of the stool of if you're pursuing a career or a studio practice, you want to do some residencies perhaps. You want to apply for some grants perhaps, and then the third leg is fellowships. So it's a way to get funds for travel, research, study, time, space in your life. So I recommend coming to that discussion. I'll be joined there by Ashley Tarantula-Morford, who is liberal arts faculty here at PAFA, and she recently completed her PhD, and as part of that process, applied for and received fellowships. So she'll be a good person to have talking about what you should be thinking about when you're making your proposal to do a fellowship. And then following that, on December 6th, I believe, Tuesday, after that, we'll be talking about applying to grad school. And Clint Jukla and a couple of people from admissions, Ryan Burton Romero, my boss, and Sam Shatina, who's the graduate admissions person, will be talking about putting together your portfolio and application materials. All right. So those are my big announcements. Anyone else? All right. Well, welcome, Anthony. Anthony Fasano was a student here. I think you were here when I got here. I came in 2011.
I don't know what years.
What year did you graduate?
I did.
Around 14?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I got here, I want to say 2010-ish.
Okay.
Like in Philly.
I think, yeah. Yes, Anthony's originally from San Francisco.
Yeah.
And while he was here, he was a really, really good printmaker. In fact, I'm an Anthony Fasano collector. I own one of your prints. Yeah, I have the image that was the postcard image for the print sale. It's a girl on a sled.
Oh, yeah. Woodcut.
A woodcut, yeah.
Anybody doing printmaking? Yes. How are the other two people in there?
That's good. I'm taking monotype with Tony, and it's great. It's a good project.
Oh, yeah, Tony's the greatest. Chance. Bug him. Actual fun fact, he doesn't like being called Tony. Everyone calls him Tony. He just lets it slide. He told me once, it's like, I don't really like the nickname Tony, but I'm used to it.
What's he want to be called?
Anthony.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Oh, like you.
Yeah. I don't like my name shortened. Neither does he, I guess.
Does anyone know the game Artle? It's like Wordle.
Artle.
A-R-T-L-E.
Oh, no.
It's a visual game that you play. It gives you a painting or a drawing or print or a sculpture. It gives you one, and then you guess who it is. It's from the National Gallery in D.C. And if you get it wrong, it gives you a second image. And the way it's supposed to progress is the first one is kind of obscure and doesn't look like their canon of work. And then if you miss by the fourth guess, it's canonical. So the Matisse will really look like a late Matisse cutout or something. And that was Matisse all right. So it's a guessing game. And last night I was playing it before bed to kind of relax my brain. And you type in the name, right? And I type in the name, the menu comes up, or pull down comes up, and you select all of the names. And one of the names was Tony Rosati. And I was like, Tony Rosati, National Gallery? The National Gallery owns 5 Tony Rosatis.
Little snowmen?
No, they're none of
Does he
them.
do those anymore?
He does, yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's done a snowman demo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
He
good.
does snowmen, he does fish, clouds, yeah.
I feel like I'm a fish out of water coming back here, but at least Tony makes snowmen still.
Well, and when I was talking about this workshop before you came, I mentioned that there are, which you've never owned up to, or no one ever pinned on you, there are little graffitos of your face.
Graffitos?
Yeah,
Is that a graffito? Is it
yeah,
like a tank?
a singular, yeah. There's like a, I'll show you one after.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think you went around and drew them, like on outlets and switches and things.
I can personally guarantee that I did not draw
Really?
any of those.
All right, we'll look at it after. Uh-huh, because you were,
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
oh, really?
And Ann Stasson definitely did not give me a paint bucket to paint the school.
Uh-huh, okay. Also, Anthony, my first year here, really dressed up for Halloween. So that, there's no sense in denying. Like
Yeah.
you made a giant, like,
Actually, I do have a fun story about that.
Yeah.
I brought it on a mega bus underneath where all the, like I brought this huge costume and brought it to Micah and won their Halloween costume contest. My friend also like fully dressed up, and I was allowed to enter in a couple's costume, so like I entered as his partner,
okay.
so we both won. It was like $300.
Wow.
It's insane. Micah does not mess around when it comes to Halloween.
And then you wore it here, through the hallways.
So yeah, like 50 pounds. Yeah, aluminum flashing is heavy.
And if you look around, you were a model for the Stewartson, right?
Yeah.
So there's a plaster sculpture of Anthony somewhere in the school. I was looking for it before this talk, and I couldn't find it. I looked up in the library and I looked over in the cast hall, but I couldn't find it.
There's a naked sculpture of me somewhere.
That's, yeah, good size. So, yeah, you can find it. You can
So-
identify it by the hair.
Don't ever model for that.
That will haunt you for the rest of your life.
I probably still limp from it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
even
standing there 2
the
days?
easiest position in the world is like, what is it, 8, 10 hours?
Yeah.
A day for 3 days. With like, so every 15 minutes with I think like a 5 minute break. I don't know. It's terrible.
But anyway, welcome, Anthony. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
this.
This is my talk. Please direct your eyeballs over to the slides, because I will also, I mean, I wrote down, I'll get into it. The talk is called Perfect is the Enemy of the Good. This is about finishing a game project from concept to completion, and basically how I limped my way to the finish line. I think most of this is brute force when it comes to finishing a large-scale project. The game itself is called Potion Slingers. This is not the last time I'll bring it up for branding purposes. I have a ton of slides and probably not enough time to go over them all, so I should probably do it quicker. These are the main things I will go over specifically. Perfect is the enemy of the good. Take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. The best laid plans always go awry, and manufacture unluck. I like aphorisms. Anybody know what an aphorism is? Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Yes. They're just proverb sayings. I think, you know, you can cherry pick which ones are actually useful. And I don't know, there's what, endless amount of them, they all contradict each other, but I like these ones. So these are the guiding force of my talk. I've gone over a couple drafts of this talk, and I feel like it's emblematic as a whole as to just kind of my whole process. As you can see, I'm not reading off of the thing anymore, but I originally wrote, this is like maybe 3 or 4 different versions of this script. Oh yeah, the little Where's Waldo mini game. Where's Greg? Thank him because he's a certified cool guy who brought his own pizza. And I also brought another little activity station. I'm working on this is one of the cards for the game. It's based completely off of like people's submissions. Super weird and experimental. Please try it out. There's plenty of paper. Take it home. Whatever you want. About me, Greg already actually went over all this stuff. More or less. Printmaker went here. Who cares, right? This talk is mainly about this game. I fully funded it last year and just got a truckload of shipments a week ago. Funded in the first day. I'm still not 100% sure how, but I'm going to try and explain it in this talk. This is part of a big finger quotes, very real multimedia franchise. There's a bunch of real video game stuff, fake video game stuff happening. A lot of merch I built for fun to benefit, I don't know, who. A little bit more backstory. I've been in game development a long time. By that I mean I drew cards with my brother when we were 12. And I've also done YouTube shows, completed 150-page comic book, all during this time, which is probably foolish, but I guess this is the main process. I started originally 7 years ago, designing a video game. Obviously, since this talk is about that, I nailed it first try. So 7 years ago, I'm working on concept sketches, trying to make a third-person RPG, which is, you're controlling a character inside the universe. Lots of character designs, lots of concepts for potential gameplay. Spent a lot of time on maps to the point where I was fully mapping out all of them. I kind of lost focus here though when during that video game phase. I spent like a year on it, and I ended up succumbing to Scope Creep, which is I was gonna draw a little imp that you'd see on the slides and we'd all boo or something, but I found this little guy online and I just think it's so fucking funny that I know I had to put him in, but I succumbed to Scope Creep the first game. I didn't even make it past the concept phase. It's really, really easy to over-design things and to just add features until it's just completely impossible to develop something. So I decided to start over. I couldn't learn programming. I was getting burnt out so quickly, so I decided to work on a point-and-click adventure game instead. I did animation at the ASE, built a big movie theater that I housed them in, and took all of the previous work. I was like, I can do this in a year. I already have a solid foundation of this game design stuff, all the concepts I worked on, the characters exist, the world exists. All I have to do are redesign all of my assets for the game from scratch. Add walk cycles. I was making progress, but on a completely new game. And spent a lot of time on that. And since the talk is definitely about this, I completed it. Or I succumbed to Scope Creep again, this little shit. So again, this was a year later, after a year later, I really sat down and thought, okay, I actually want to complete a game. I was even told by plenty of people, you can't call yourself a game designer if you haven't released a game, right? Which is like a little disheartening until it becomes frustrating, and then I don't know, that was kind of galvanizing because it just annoyed me so much that someone would say like, well, you're not really a game designer. So I was like, okay, what do I know? I'm a printmaker. I'm gonna harken back to like the 12-year-old cards I did and have like a little epiphany. And I don't know if anybody else is from San Francisco, really slim chance. School did have like a magnet for a while, soda kids.
Yeah, we used to get a lot of kids from San
Yeah.
Francisco.
But anyway, this is Phyllis Cement, and I've had her since the 3rd grade, And she's from Boston, and she doesn't mince words. And her dreaded, everyone was always afraid of her saying, no, 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 it's all wrong, followed by the most dreaded words of all, start over. I mean, Oliver Grimley, RIP, who used to teach here as well, I had him when he was like 97, 98, and he would do the same thing where people would be working on a cast drawing for like a month, and then he'd be like, start over. He wouldn't even remember who people were either, it was insane, but I don't know. Something that really stuck with me was I actually met up with her a couple years in the middle of this, and I don't know, we met up at like a coffee shop or whatever. I mentioned to her, like, everyone always hated like a lot of your classes because you'd tell people to start over all the time. And she'd be like, well, you're not really starting over, are you? Because even when you spend 10, 12 hours on a piece, like, that still sticks in your brain. And when you work on the next one, you're not starting at zero. And I feel like this kind of galvanized me a little bit. I felt I was able to rip the guts out of those previous games and really hone in what I needed to do to actually finish a game, which is this simple slide right here. I'm gonna break it down a little bit. I never made it past the concept and goals spots at first, but these are the 3 things that need to be done to start, to figure out what your concept and goals are, and immediately start rapid prototyping. Just making as many designs as possible. It's basically the same as thumbnails for drawings. And then trying to iterate and see if it works. Excuse me. The next section, wait, there's a couple slides missing, I think. Oh, no, that's not. Okay. So these are my inspirations. The little anime girl in the middle was actually made by a 12-year-old girl named Paris Smith, who made a 3-episode TV show all by herself. Fully voiced, some of them by Microsoft Sam from like Windows 98. Absolute bonkers nonsense. But I was like, if a 12-year-old girl can make a 3-episode series, so can I. A lot of my other influences are various trading card games. The board game GIFs, I don't care how you say it on the right, are Hero Quest, and designed a promo trailer that I'll show off later. A lot of influences as well are these, they're called Mango cards. They're like, actually, if you know what Pogs are, these are the grandpa of Pogs. But they're these cardboard chits that you would slam on the table and they would flip them over and you'd win pieces. And I wanted to take the game world that I already built and make it feel like kind of like a magical junkyard. The top images are shoot, it's called Holy Diwali.
This is holy, I guess.
Yes.
Where they show colors.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to make a game that was about potions. I needed it to be colorful. I wanted it to like have some sort of magical element. And I feel like a lot of potion-themed games are kind of stiff. Like it's a lot of, you're mixing them inside a classroom. And I really wanted to like have some energy behind it while also being kind of having this feeling like it was made in like a junky thrift shop. Actually, the one on the bottom right is AIDS Thrift, and they are sick. Go give them money. So I used Twine to kind of map out the initial steps of what I need to do. Twine is actually for creative writing. I just kind of used whatever I could. It has lots of arrows and boxes, so it's useful to me. Slowly, it started to look more like the process started to look more and more like this, and it started to feel like this. Although the Big Red Panic probably should have been all over the place instead. Next, after rapid prototyping, is playtesting new concepts, constantly iterating with friends and family at first, who can be really honest with you, tell you what's not working, peers. And then eventually I need to playtest with strangers. So I don't know how deep a cut Magic School Bus is, but her catchphrase was take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. And I cannot express enough how important that is, especially with the rapid prototyping phase. The advantages of physical prototypes over anything else is even with video games, you have to program. And having physical prototypes is a lot better. This is the original, oh, that's a slide that doesn't exist. So the one on the left, the original prototypes, just to see if it worked. I had a friend who worked at a movie theater, and he cut up the backs of the Rocky Horror Picture Show postcards so we could do some rapid prototyping with job. A lot of stuff doesn't make it through the cutting room floor. You play through a bunch of play tests and find out things don't work. I removed dice rolling. I removed a bunch of different pieces of the game that just weren't working. I had ingredients at one point. I realized I just wanted to like throw potions and not worry about mixing everything together. And then you just need to get it in front of as many playtesters as possible. This is my grandpa who was just like, I only know what poker is. And he was like, but this game is a lot more sophisticated than those games that my daughter keeps making me play with her neighbors. He was actually really almost as useful. I guess the people who are most useful for prototyping are people who are really, really old, who don't have great eyesight, and don't know anything about games, and also 10-year-olds because they're vicious when they play, and they are at each other's throats for cutting backroom deals, and they gave me a lot of concepts that I ended up going through on because I thought they were great. But obviously this stuff is really hard to read because it's just prototyping. The reason why people who have difficulties with eyesight are definitely perfect for this is because you're playing with a bunch of people who are at a table and you need to be able to read the cards. There were a couple transitions I made during here. Actually, this transition from Photoshop to Clip Studio Paint isn't super relevant, but I would make the switch just because it just feels a lot better and it's cheaper. I guess when I went into the art phase, I just drew all I made all the names first for this, just what I thought would be funny and fun for me to draw, just to keep me motivated. And I had to learn how to merge documents in InDesign. So if you're planning on doing lots of large scale stuff like this, let me know, because there's a learning curve and it's not particularly fun unless you have the brain for it. Lots of spreadsheets. So once I finished the user interface on the art, which was basically just making the borders and collating everything on these spreadsheets, I guess all that's left is to finish all the box art and everything. Then you can start marketing it and figure out manufacturing, publishing, and stuff for the future. It's all really complex, and I will try to go over it, but feel free to ask me questions afterwards. I think that I'm really, really proud of the backs of the cards, actually. I think it's really important to put intent behind literally everything. And for a lot of card games, you're looking at the backs of the cards more than the front. And I feel like not a lot of card games pay attention to it as much. But there's secrets. Everything that you could possibly know about the game and how to play it is actually, there's reminders on the back as well. Here's some initial sketches of the backs of the cards and the box art. They're embarrassing to me and I hate them, but that's okay. The card designs themselves were like several manifolding concepts that I had to make sure worked. There are 5 different things on the card itself that indicate what type of card it is. I think that's really, really important for just cursory viewing. All the important text is on the bottom of the card. That is actually a mechanically important thing for the game itself, but I went through a ton of iterations to get to this point. But all of it is extremely important. For example, people who have visibility issues or cannot see every color. The borders have to be textured to make sure that they can account for that. There also has to be printed text that says what the card is. You can't just expect a lot of colors and textures to let everyone know what your cards are, because everyone has to learn these things. The buy and sell costs at the bottom are actually larger, just because the first thing you would do when you're buying a card, or when you're interacting with these cards, is to buy them from a shared market. So everything is sized properly, but this is basically the setup that structures the entire game. In terms of marketing, it's just promoting yourself. I think this image is hilarious. I guess marketing is just a lot of advocating, community building, social media posts. Emails are extremely important. I am very approachable. If you need to practice writing emails to people, even if you don't know how to write subject lines, just send emails. I think correspondence is really important, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I was able to fumble through a lot of actually really lucky situations in this context. Across the street is the convention center, where they're hosting the PAX Unplugged, which is like a big board game convention. And I applied like 3 times this year and talked to 3 different people, and the only reason why I got in was because I sent a lot of emails just checking in to make sure people who are really busy and don't have time to listen to everything you're saying see that you're being attentive, and people will help you, so just be nice and talk to them. I also tried a lot of guerrilla PR stunts. Oh, this is actually the promotional video sketch. I'm just gonna play it real quick. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but
Ocean Slingers.
this is the trailer that played for the Kickstarter.
Deep inside an endless marketplace filled with junk, face your friends in a wet, hectic free-for-all in this magical strategy card game. You are Ocean Slingers, master alchemists locked in glorious combat, but only one of you will remain victorious. Throw wild concoctions.
I throw an innocent layer cake.
Combine potions for more powerful effects.
How about mixing these in my boxing flask of the Fist Wizard?
Or fire them out of strange artifacts.
The red to run.
Equip rings and feel the power surge through your potion-throwing hands. Each potion slinger has their own unstoppable ability. When the time is right, flip them over and surprise your opponents. It's a wet, hectic, potion-throwing, card-comboing brouhaha. Potion Slingers.
Anyway, that was used as the trailer for the Kickstarter. I thought it was really, really important to have something that had a lot of visual grab. I think videos probably account for, I don't know, probably 30% of people's attention span. I would say 30% of it isn't the trailer for the video. It's really, really that important. I spent a lot of money on it and used up all my connections to make it happen. I also tried a bunch of other, just everything that I thought could stick. I did interviews on like news stations. I did like little articles and even fabricated my own let's play videos. I made a game that doesn't exist until now it does. I actually have a team working on converting it into a video game, but that was because I contacted, or I guess they were connected with a college, and they were able to get a lot of students working on this for actual credit, which is kind of insane. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I've also tried a accounts for not really anyone's benefit, making bootleg versions of the game, miniature versions of the game, just anything to kind of be interesting, at least for me. There are benefits, obviously, to doing crowdfunding yourself and self-publishing versus going through a publisher. I got to make this game completely the way I wanted to, but I guess the downside is that I have to do all of it. I don't know if that's a downside. It's actually, I enjoyed a lot of the process. It's just you have to stick with doing all of it. There's an intense learning curve. I mean, I showed you all the spreadsheets and stuff that I had to learn and relearn over and over again. InDesign I had to learn it twice at least, just doing the same thing. A benefit off of publishing everything yourself is that you get all of the profit, but it's a double-edged sword because you have to do all of the hustling. So I have to go to conventions and I have to set up all the booths, the traveling. I've heard self-publishing feels rewarding though. I think maybe eventually I'll feel something. If you go through a publisher though, you have to have that promo video. You don't have to have the video. Usually prototypes work, but you have to have something that really looks like a winner, and you have to apply to a lot of publishers. Sometimes they don't have time for your game. Sometimes they're not even interested in your type of project. It's also very hands-off after that. They do all of the work, and you see none of it. And I have a friend who just actually got a successful Kickstarter funded, but he has no idea what they're doing. He's just like, I think I get like a 6% royalty. And I think we make the same, well, at the end of the day, we'll probably make the same amount of like money off of our work, but he sees a larger audience, but they also made changes to their game. So you're kind of also at the whims of just whoever. Actually, that goes in both publishing and self-publishing. Just trying to contact all the manufacturers was insane. Not everyone's available. I had stuff manufactured in China at one point, and they are 9 hours time difference, so as I'm going to bed, they're just waking up. And not everyone is always attentive in terms of like manufacturing things. You kind of, even if you give them the money to make the thing, you still have to barrage them with emails and just see what's happening. For setting up the actual crowdfunding campaign, I had to make a lot of these little slides, and a lot of them I had to do live. So I would say if you were doing something like this, to do all the slides ahead of time, I was foolish and were doing them as they were coming in. So it would hit like 8K funded, 9K funded, I would have to make the assets for this and plug it all in. It was kind of a lot of work, especially since I was, those locked ones eventually ended up getting unlocked, and it's like, oh cool, this is great, I have more money, but also I have to design 18 more cards because I said I would. And I did a lot of feedback. That's one thing that kept me sane and made it a little bit wild, was like I asked for backer feedback. So every time I would have another stretch goal unlocked, for example, the character in the second middle, that was someone I hadn't designed yet. I asked people what they would want based off of just names, and like prototype names, and everyone liked the Trashomancer, so I had to fully design him after that. Same with the cards. I asked people what their favorite card types were and designed a card after the fact. And also spent a lot of time making these things, just explaining what people chose. The Kickstarter itself, I got 200% funded. The minimum viable amount I could make was $7,000 to just make the game. I think it's really, really important when you are making any kind of project to know what the minimum amount it requires to produce the thing. Seems obvious, but it's not always that obvious. This is actually the trend of the crowdfunding itself. All of the funding was made in the first day, and then there's this kind of lull for a really long period of time and it picks up at the end. A lot of that had to do, I think, with, that's just the nature of it. Nobody cares about a project that's any amount of days long except for the beginning and end. And I think what happens is people who are really, really excited at the beginning fund it, and the people who are like kind of tepid and waiting on whether the stretch goals fund or whatnot, eventually like throw all their money in at the end. This is just a cost breakdown of what I had to deal with. I knew that my minimum amount was $7K to print just the game and all of the merch that I was making as like backer rewards. The expected possible funding, the thing that I was aiming at and I thought that I could make was 10 to 14K. So I was planning on upgrading things if I could make that amount, which was based off of the stretch goals. And I did just barely hit the top threshold of what I was expecting. I spent 2K alone before the campaign, which was all my own money, and thank you for the stimmy checks. But I basically splurged all those on ads, which is basically throwing money in a hole. I don't know if any of you have ever taken like wads of bills and dug a hole and just thrown them in there, but that's basically what it feels like. No idea how successful, I think there was an amount that it paid back for. The cost of the game was 6K, and you know, the number breakdown basically amounted to 12K. So I was right in the threshold until you go into that bottom square, which kind of shows things that I did account for, and so I was actually over budget. I ended up going for all those splashy upgrades. I was like, this is my first game, I want to make an impression. So I went for the luxury edition, and I ended up spending even more of my own money. I can't tell you how many paychecks and how many old valuable trading card games I sold to make this happen. So just like Jurassic Park, there's Hammond who's saying, you know, spare no expense, make everything great. I don't care as long as it's luxurious. And then there's also Ian Malcolm saying, well, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I wasn't paying attention to a lot of the finances. Also, extremely unfun for some people's stuff. I think it's just a memory mini game where you just fill in information about yourselves. I would take the time to do your own taxes, TurboTax, and all those like kind of trying to take money from you. But I realized after the fact, after everything had already funded, I had to make an LLC, I had to make a tax ID for it, I had to figure out my EIN. This is all absolute nonsense, I'm sure. Sales tax certificate. I don't know, there's a lot of bookkeeping, but even though the government's saying you're like 20 years old, they help you, because all you have to do is follow instructions. It's actually really easy, it just looks really intimidating. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. I thought it would be a good idea to de-stress a little bit by making a complete other game before the Kickstarter launch. So I made and published a card game that was based off of submissions from other people, as well as myself and another partner. So I ended up printing an entirely new game beforehand, and this is what's called a noble obstacle, where you feel like you're doing something that is making progress towards a goal, but really what you're doing is you're putting off the goal. And I mean, it's cool that this stuff was made. And I guess one good thing out of it is that a lot of cards that were designed for this game ended up translating into cards that I could actually design for the game itself. So I don't actually know what to tell you about Noble Obstacle. They're bad. They're bad. Don't get distracted, because then you have to deal with the little Scope Creep guy again. I hate that guy. He needs to go away. Okay, so what's next? I have all these boxes of games. I now have to. I already did the preliminary marketing for the Kickstarter, but the marketing doesn't end. It never ends. It never will end. I actually talked to a friend who was just like, oh yeah, so you opened a business you have to do quarterly tax reportings, and I was like, what does that end? And he was like, it ends until the business dies. And that's it. You just have to keep doing things. So I got all these big old boxes that just shipped in last week. I'm actually over the moon, and I'm gonna sell them 3 weeks from now at the convention center across the street. If you take away anything from this talk, start over all the time. You're working on a piece and you're just not feeling it, start it over. It doesn't matter. You already learned everything you could from that piece. The piece doesn't disappear that you worked on, you can just make a new one, it's fine. Your brain is smart and full of things. That's why also making mistakes is really important. Rapid prototyping, doing thumbnails for a large piece, they're important. I mean, just get things out as fast as possible so that you can start over. And ask for help. I know sometimes it's difficult to like talk to people, especially when it's like, oh, well, I feel like I'm asking them a favor. A lot of people will stumble out of their ways to help you. I am extremely approachable. All my information is down at the bottom. Please bug me if you have any questions about making anything. I don't know if any of you are planning on making an actual game, but if you have any questions about just project management in general, just trying to make a big piece, send me an email, doesn't matter. Thank you for listening to me. This is the end of my talk. If anyone has any questions, please ask them to me.
I have a question. As far as your marketing that you did, do you feel like that was key in you getting the funding that you did as quickly as you did?
So, Kickstarter originally says that just baseline, the amount of funding that you get from Kickstarter backers who are strangers matches what you bring in. So you have to come in like with a squad. You have to bug all your friends and family and jump in. I don't know if I hit some sort of algorithm or my marketing worked properly, like just pouring money in ads, but it did work. I actually ended up getting 80%, I think, of the backers were original people who I didn't know, which is kind of surprising. I do think it is really, really important to try everything because you have to do things until they stick. That's just any kind of promoting yourself.
What did you do along with the video? Like, where did you place your ads?
I used social media posts. I did a lot of experimenting with like paid advertising on Facebook and Instagram. I can't say any one particular social media site is helpful. I think you just need to experiment and see which ones work. I know everyone was telling me to do TikTok. I did pay someone to make a TikTok and YouTube video. They're like a smaller game reviewer group that did a review for me. So if you do want to promote yourself, you do need to find your niche, either one. I think, yeah.
And you targeted children's age group?
I hit everyone between the age of, you actually can't advertise to children.
Okay.
Which is good. It's actually great that you can't do that.
Unless it's TV, right?
Yeah. I targeted anyone from 18 to 36, I believe, was my target demographic. Just a lot of people who play tabletop, like board games of this type of flavor, tend to stick in that age group. And then I hit all of the specific interests for targeted ads. Each advertising, each social media thing is different, except for Instagram and Facebook. They're just only a little different because they're super coupled. Cross-posting is super helpful, I think, because you post on Instagram and it automatically uploads to the page. And I don't know, I poured way too much money into them, and I don't think Facebook was worth worth it. There was also ad space I could have bought on board game related websites, but I was unsure of the traffic at the time. So there's a lot of stumbling around in the dark, wearing mittens in a parking garage when you're doing this kind of thing for the first time. Anything else? So,
So when you were working on this, did you have the option to collaborate with people and let them take part in your creation process, or did you find it more helpful to the overall end goal of the game to pay people to do participation?
actually, participation and collaboration are extremely important. When I played the video games, or when I was designing video games originally, I was like, I don't want anyone to corrupt my brain's ideas. I want this to be 100% me. And I'm reading about the history of board games, and there's no written rules. They're brought in through generations of just like whoever's traveling and like remembers the rules. Games are inherently social, and once I started letting people help me, I got a lot further. I'm actually gonna go through. Okay, wait, let me find the slide. Those three cards right there are actually collaborations. You can't really see the flavor text at the bottom, but all of those are actually cards from other potion-related games. So I contacted them. I was like, "Hey, I'm making a potion game. Would you allow me to actually design a card based off of one of your cards, the mechanics of the game, and put it in there as like a little shout out?" And I don't know, everybody was down. It didn't cost them anything. They didn't have to make any of the assets. I just tried to make something in the style, like an homage to their game, just because I thought it would be cool. And I definitely got that idea from this stupid game, where I just asked for as many submissions as possible. We're just like, hey, I'm making a game, just design a card, there's no rules, all of the game's mechanics are dictated by the card that are submitted. And that definitely freed up a lot of my attitude towards designing something that is inherently mine. Because this game isn't mine when people play it, it's theirs. And they're gonna play it however they want. I'm just providing all the pieces. In fact, the card on the left actively asks you to participate with it, so that's very hands-off. The card doesn't work unless people draw on it. And I just thought that kind of design space would be interesting. And I also have this little homebrew station. Some of you are aware of it. I have a card that actually pulls up a random card that someone else, including you maybe, has designed, and the card functions identically to that card. That'll probably work better in the video game version, but I think building a community with people who do stuff that are interested in the same things as you is important. Any other questions, comments?
Is there like a local gaming thing that you were tapped into, and was that really supportive for you?
Yes. Actually, send me. Oops. It's called the Philly. Oh my God, I'm blanking. It's the Philly Game Design Guild, I believe, something similar to that. There's Discords, there's Facebook groups, there's ways to contact them. I can send you invites if you message me. But if you're interested in doing anything like this at all, just trying to make any game of any size, they have bi-monthly meetings in 2 different locations. One of them is actually in Center City, and one of them is a little bit further out west, but they're super welcoming. There's a ton of different communities. I really, really like the tabletop community in particular, because actually I have a friend who's working on a video game, and he was saying, you could be a jerk and make video games alone in your room and then sell copies without ever having to go outside. But with tabletop games, you have to like make friends. I know that's kind of gross, but you have to be nice to people, and you have to play with them in a space in person. And I guess for that reason, just intrinsically, it seems like the tabletop community is really, really friendly and welcoming. And it doesn't seem competitive at all either. I feel like anybody who's working on something similar is just excited that somebody else is. So, try making games. I think this is the first time I've actually, this is the first time I've completed a project of this large a scale.
Congratulations. Yeah.
I don't need claps, it's okay.
And we're thanking you too for your presentation.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm clap for that. Very good. I don't know, do you have any other questions, anything else? If not, that is also totally fine.
I just have to say, I'm exhausted just from hearing everything you did. I mean, it's, and that, again, if I can harken back to your time here, that's sort of like who you were when you were here.
Frenetic and anxious.
Involved and not afraid to take on a challenge. So he alluded to it briefly, but yes, Anthony's ASC, he actually built a movie theater.
Oh, wait, okay, how many of you are doing the ASC this year, next year? Okay, so I built a movie theater. I was doing a lot of animation because I was in the BFA program, and PAFA wasn't accredited yet. The only way to get a BFA actually before my first guinea pig year was to get it through Penn, which, having 2 years of studio time, I cannot overstate how important I think that was that I didn't get. So you either have to make your own studio year or you bum a lot of, actually, I was a little bit of a brat. I would sneak into studios that weren't being used, and I kind of would use that as my studio year, third year. I could probably get in trouble for that, but I did get in trouble for that. Peter Medwick called me a little fucker.
Oh.
He was joking, but he was like, that little fucker.
Did you go over the top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped going over the top.
Don't do that.
I stopped going over the top because there was also a string of thefts that were happening around the same time. I was just like, this is, I'm just gonna bum around in my friend's studios because there's a lot going on. But anyway, okay, so I didn't know what to do my fourth studio year. I was a fish out of water. I was doing animation even though I was a printmaking major. They're kind of related. You're making a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. I guess if you really, really like the process more than actually making the art, the finished piece, would be a printmaker. Anyway, I did this animation. I felt like the creme de la creme was always when you walk in and go into the like big open like first floor. I figured all the older ladies who have all the money from the women's guild don't want to walk up and down stairs to look at stuff. That's probably not true, but that's how I felt fourth year. So I was like, they're gonna stick me in the basement in the corner. Like I'm making weird alts like animations, and like none of the faculty's gonna give me any prizes for it. So I was just like, I'm not gonna get any prizes. I'm just gonna make it a goal to force myself to the first floor. So I made specifications for a movie theater that physically could not fit in the basement. So I made the requirement be that it had to be a certain height and a certain width. And I also needed to block out light. So I bought this went to Jomar Fabric, which doesn't exist anymore. That place is a beautiful fucking wreck. I bought vinyl tarp and lined all the inside to completely block out all the light. And I got an email from Ann Stassen a couple days later because of the, quote, horrid smell coming from the theater. So even though I took the tarps out on the 11th floor balcony and off-gassed them for 8 hours, the smell did not go away. This is actually part of the original talk and the whole reason why I called it Earth is Animated Good. As you can see, that I kind of forgot why it was called this, but I had to rip out everything and quickly replace the lining so that I could actually show my animations in a dark room. And it turns out just trash picked cardboard and fabric stapled over it does the trick. So I don't know why I was working so hard to make everything perfect when it was just as easy to do that.
And it worked, I mean, it was a black box.
Yeah, I was able to get Billy to follow to trash pick movie theater chairs for me too. I still owe the sandwich for that. I was like, what can I do? Like, it's like these chairs make the movie theater. Like, what can I owe you so much. He was like, just give me a big old sandwich one day. So
And you still owe them.
I still owe him. I haven't seen him in a while, so I run into him every once in a while, like last drop. But I don't know. Make it if you want to figure out how to squeeze your way into the ASC, I guess.
Go big.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you.
That was great.
I hope so. I mean, I was still writing this at 3 a.m. last night. I mean, I showed you the first slide. Like I had like 30 pages of this lecture before I was just like, I don't want to just read from a paper.
No, you did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad I get live feedback.
Oh, yes, that's really important. We could do the raffle. So, has everyone put a ticket in? I think everyone's gonna get a prize today. I could probably guarantee it. All right, I have a confession to make. This is used, but I'm trying to clean out my office. I haven't really, no one's made an announcement yet, but I'm retiring at the end of the year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna miss you guys. So I have a lot of junk in my office, and there will be someone taking my place, so don't panic. And CJ and Kate are working on programming for next semester. I'm cleaning out my office. This is a barely used palette plate, or palette pad. So
That's a lot of preamble for a palette.
well, I'm explaining why I'm giving damaged or, used goods to people, so I feel self-conscious about that. And then, again, this was trash picked all in, from someone who left.
Here,
their
I want my
comment.
games too.
Oh, awesome, wow. This is,
They're finished.
this is gonna be first round. Yes, actually, we were all sitting there wondering, does this really exist, right? Or was this like an elaborate?
Well, I mean, the bootleg exists.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I talked to a local game store, and they were like, "That sucks so hard that someone made a bootleg of your game." I was like, "Yeah, it does. I mean, I made it, but still, it sucks."
You suck as a.
Yeah, I suck.
And also there's, bottle of ink, which I made, so. we did-
Greg said you could drink it. It's made out of Everclear walnut.
Please don't drink it. And teacher, if this is not your size, this is a little large, I can give you a different size. But this has a design on the back, designed by a pen.
How cute.
Oh, I want to see it. Oh, hell yeah. Win that prize.
If you want one, I'll give you one.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, first ticket, pick whatever you want. I have a feeling it's gonna be the game.
Why?
Well, Thanksgiving is coming up. What better thing could you do than play potion slingers at Thanksgiving?
Someone's gonna pick that first to be polite.
Yeah, I know. We've kind of backed them into it.
Now.
Did you put one in? No. Okay. Yeah, otherwise, I would love it because otherwise I'm gonna have to play Uno with my nieces and nephews, and they just like start screaming.
Greg, I'm gonna give you a copy, it's fine.
Thank you. All right. Final three numbers, 615. 615.
Oh, that's me.
All right, you go first. Anything on the table? Number two,
The pressure.
613. Well, Anthony, where can they get this game if they want to follow
I don't know
up?
if you wanted to.
I do want it, thank you.
I'll
Oh,
still bring
hell
it.
yeah. Oh, I'm so excited about this.
Where can they get your game?
Where can they get my game? I got a box right there.
Oh, all right.
Off to my website.
I think I'm going to do.
609. Kayla?
It's so sick.
Oh, what? 614. All right. Yes, if you want a different size, come with me. I have all the sizes in my office. That's a large, and I do have medium and small as well. Okay. I think you're good. 611. All right. And the last gift goes to, oh, we got two people. No, just one. 612.
That's me.
Oh. 612? It might have been KC. All right, 610.
That's me.
All right, Jamie, you're the last one.
I also have all these stickers too, if you want them. You can put them around